Hi, this is Bethany, and this is my submission video for the first round of the 2017 NYX Face Awards. For this round, we were given the theme of royalty. And as proof that my creative side of my brain goes somewhere off in space, I got inspired by xenomorphs, or aliens. Xenomorph simply means alien, but I got inspired by the entire Alien series, the aesthetic of the Queen Alien, and many of the collective works of H.R. Giger, who was referred to as the Dark Star for his ability to create haunting surrealism imagery. My queen wears an exoskeleton inspired by the aliens, her eyebrows are inspired by some of H.R. Giger's individual pieces, and my crown is inspired by a face hugger. Go figure. If you enjoyed this look, please be sure to follow the link in my bio to vote for me up to 3 times a day in the NYX Face Awards. And if you want to see how I got this look, then just keep watching. So to begin, I'm going to be using NYX's Hydratouch Foundation Primer all over my face, avoiding the eyebrow area. This will help me from having flaky skin underneath my work. Once that's fully dried, I begin gluing down my eyebrows with one of many coats of an Elmer's glue stick. I am sure to set each dried layer with NYX's HD Studio Photogenic finishing powder. Once they're as smooth as possible, I begin canceling out my eyebrows with NYX's Dark Circle Concealer. This will cancel out all the cool tones in my eyebrow. Then using the NYX SFX cream color in white, I begin looking suspiciously like a cross between Voldemort and Handsome Squidward. Once I've laid down that color with a brush, I make it even smoother with a beauty blender. For longevity, I'm sure to set it with NYX's SFX setting powder. Then I prime my eyelids with NYX's eyeshadow base that is skin toned. Then hopping in with the NYX's Full Throttle eyeshadow palette in Takeover Control, I'm going in with this mauve taupe shade much higher than my natural crease. Then I'm going in a little bit deeper with this single eyeshadow called the Chaser. The Chaser is a cool tone taupe, much more cool tone than the first eyeshadow, and I'm using that as well to map out the shape of my eyebrows. These are pretty funky, pretty sci-fi, and if you just take your time with them and use a really thin brush, they come together quite nicely. Then using NYX's Slide-On Liner in Jet Black, I'm mapping out my lower lash line, giving this curved design to kind of mimic my upper lines. Then using the nearly black NYX eyeshadow called Raven, I'm going to deepen some areas, avoiding the middle of the vertical lines. This will help give it a more curved shadow. Then taking NYX's white gel liner and one of the skinniest paint brushes I have, I'm going to be filling in the rest of the eyebrow. Doing this on top of the shadows is what is going to give us that raised optical illusion. And after the white is placed, some areas may still need some more refinement, so I go in with a super petite brush and add more shadow. Then using NYX's white liquid liner, I'm going to go in and make some edges just a little bit more highlighted and clean. Then using the NYX Prismatic eyeshadow in Dark Swan, I'm going to fill in my lash line and come back to that later. Then using the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, I'm going to highlight my lid because I'm going to be placing the Prismatic eyeshadow in Frostbite on top of it. This one is duochrome. Fancy. Then using those 2 taupes from earlier, I begin contouring my face. I'm going to give myself an S contour on my cheekbone where it kind of curves inward and looks more gaunt. And then contouring around the top edge and my jawline. Then taking the NYX's Primal Colors eyeshadow in Hot Blue, I'm going to add a little bit of that to my temple. Now we're going to move over to the body portion, which I've already mapped out with the NYX Slide-On Liner in Pure White. You can see I've drawn my exoskeleton, and then I'm adding highlights in with that NYX's white cream color. Mind you, these will be used up with other colors as well, but it's just good to map out the parts that are raised. Then taking the NYX's cream colors in blue and purple, I'm going to be mapping out which parts are blue and purple in my design. Primarily when I practiced this, I planned on a mostly monochromatic color scheme, but when I sat down to actually film this, I decided I wanted to throw in some color. I also used the Full Throttle eyeshadow stick in Night Walker to outline the purpliness that will be my arms. Then I take NYX's eyeshadow in Black Bean to fill in some darker areas. About half of this is just mapping out where I want the color because this will not necessarily be the product sitting on top. Then using water activated paint, I blank out the underneath of my arms with black. Then taking a rich violet shade, I fill in the underneath of my exoskeleton. I'll also take a thin brush and some black paint to clean up some edges. Once I've outlined my exoskeleton, I'm using a bit of a medium-toned blue paint to fill in some of the edges, but none of the highlighted areas. Then I'll be going in with some of that hot blue eyeshadow from earlier and using that to shade around the collarbone. Once done using the darker taupe from earlier, I'm going to begin shading around my neck area for that intricate design. However, we stop this for a moment and then I use a little bit of that hot blue eyeshadow on my shoulders to set the cream product. I also use NYX's Primal Colors eyeshadow in Hot Fuchsia to add touches of purpley pink to that top collarbone. Now it's time to highlight using that white gel eyeliner from earlier. I'm using a thin brush and jiggly little brush strokes. This will give me a glistening finish, which is what I was aiming for. Then I map out my neck design with NYX's Slide-On Liner in Pure White. After that, I go over top of it with NYX's Liquid Suede Matte Lip Liner in Amethyst. After I make these scaly type ridges, I'm going to be using the NYX's eyeshadow in Ultraviolet to shade underneath where I mapped the line. I go in with NYX's Slide-On Liner in Jet Black to get a little bit more of a defined shadow under those points and the downward pointing curves. Then to give this area a more fleshy appearance, I begin shading underneath those lines with the two taupes mixed together on a pencil brush. Now once again we are highlighting. We're going to be using that white gel eyeliner again. I like using this because you can soften it out if it's too much color and you can take it away a little bit more easily than some other products. If you make a mistake, don't worry, there's still always the most extreme part of the shadows where we use black. But first I left an area blank on the middle of my chest, so I'm going to pencil in first and then cover that with dark Swan from my lower lash line, and then gently fading this out to make it look more natural, if this can look natural. And now for some more final distinct touches, I'm taking some black paint on a skinny brush and darkening some edges, though not all of them because that would take away the illusion that it's more 3D. I also add some skinny lines down the inner middle of that collar. Keep in mind that all of this is not going to look completely clean because I'm mixing flesh with biomechanoid aesthetics. Then hopping over to the eye area, I'm lining my lower lash area with the NYX's Epic Ink Liner. I'm applying some black jewels for an extra royal feel. And then before we even think of lashes, I have to pop in my contact lenses that give me an extra biomechanical feel to them. As some final touch-ups, I use Glam Azure by the Aqua Luxe line. I fill in some blue areas of my exoskeleton, and I highlight some ridges on my shoulder with the NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk. I also redefine a few highlights before applying my mascara. I took these NYX Wicked lashes and on another level, I cut off the long ends of them and applied those to the outer edge to get a flared eye. Then I put a more wispy lash on top of them to customize my own look. To tie into my rather blurple color scheme, I used NYX's Liquid Suede lipstick in Jet Set, and then this little sponge I'm using here is NYX's Precision sponge to help blur it out. Then I highlight that lip using NYX's Frostbite eyeshadow from earlier. And then for a highlight, I use NYX's Chromatic Illuminator in Lavender Steel. This has a cool toned lavender shift, though sometimes it appears a little pink as well too. And then some final touches, I go in with that white liquid liner to add some ridges to these collar pieces. I go in with a whoosher brush and some black water activated paint to add some speckles for a more creepy organic touch near my ears. And then I'm using that silver liner on my waterline as well. And now with makeup finished, let me give you a 1-minute rundown on how I made my main props. Firstly, for the spikes that are on my royal throne, I used twigs, not really twigs, but sticks and aluminum foil. After I build the structure, I wrap it with Gorilla Tape, and then to get a smoother finish on my final layers, I lay the tape down long ways, and I'm very careful to trim it and then lay down sections so it's nice and smooth. With those finished, we move to the face hugger inspired crown. So I want long, spindly finger bones. I'm using Model Magic, which is just like children's modeling clay that dries into a foamy material. And I'm using sticks from my yard to kind of hold up those structures. I add a little bit of texture for interest, and then once I'm finished, I let them dry for a day or two. Then I'll be using a hot glue gun to adhere them. And I'm gluing them on top of this sort of prom queen type headband crown. I thought it was perfect for how it would make them set. And then I'm going to cover that crown with this nice silvery metallic mesh material wrapped around between the bones. Then I spray paint the crown in silver outside with a couple coats, and I cover both the spikes and the crown with this gunmetal pigment from NYX. And that, my friends, is my finished look for the royalty round of the NYX Face Awards. I hope you all enjoyed this Xenomorph Queen and where I got my inspiration from. I truly hope that my video showed you a type of royalty that you did not expect to see, and hopefully you were pleasantly surprised, hopefully. If you want to see me make it to the next round, please vote for me up to 3 times a day. The link is below my video. As always, I thank you all for watching my videos, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.